sampling techniques. In statistics, the population means every item being studied is included. So that's every single person or thing that we're talking about. So people, cars and houses. A census includes the whole population. And in Australia, the census is conducted every 5 years. This booklet is a little bit old, so the next one will be in a couple of years, not 2021. Obviously, that would have been our last one. So the next one will be in 2026. A census is expensive, but it also provides exact information about our population. And sometimes the whole population is not needed, and a sample of the items is taken from the population. This is cheaper and provides an approximate information about the population. So if we look at the examples here, we need to determine whether a census or a sample is more appropriate in these situations. So finding the most popular car to drive in Maitland, we will just conduct a sample. We're not going to ask every single person in the population. If we're finding the exact number of kids in Maitland with a view of building a new playground, this would have to be a census because we need to know exact numbers. We're looking at those keywords there. And investigating the TV viewing habits of Australians. This could just be done in a sample of people within a particular area, or like if you wanted to look into a region, you could do that as well. We then look at types of samples. So for a sample to be a true representation of the population, every item in the population should have an even chance of being selected. The larger the sample, it's more accurate, and obviously then the smaller the sample is less accurate. And there are 4 types of sampling that we need to know about. We have a random sample, where each item is completely picked at random, so like putting everyone's names in a hat or a random name wheel or generator online. A systematic sample, and that is having a system in place for selecting items from the population, so every 10th person, or on if you're checking how things are on a production line, you might pick every 15th item, just check that it is doing the job that it's designed to do. You have a stratified sample, which is the whole population divided into different layers, so like the year groups within a school, and then items are selected in proportion to the whole population. So if 52% of our school is female, then 52% of the stratified sample must be female. Self-selected sample, this is people choose to participate, which could lead to a biased representation, which we'll talk about in a moment. So voting for your favourite singer on a talent show. So if we look at a couple of examples here, which type of sample would you use to investigate each of the following? The opinion of Year 11 students on the food at the canteen. You're not going to ask every Year 11 student, so you would just do this as a random sample. The quality of a certain type of mobile phone. Now, like talking about like that production line, that would be a systematic sample. The amount of time spent on electronic devices by Australian school children. This would be a stratified sample. So we would take a percentage or a proportion of each year group or each age group of child. And an SMS poll about the speed limit P plates should be allowed to do. This would most likely be your self-selected sample, as people are only going to answer that as to if it concerns them or not. Now, if we look at this example, which is a little bit more wordy, and this is what we need to make sure we practice, so with this, we try and make sure that we get our highlighters out and highlight those key points so it's easier to read back. At a high school in Maitland, there are 336 students in Year 12 and 278 students in Year 11. The staff want to know how many hours students work a week. The staff decided that they want to survey 100 students, so how many Year 11 students should be selected for a stratified sample? So what we need to work out here is the total number of students. So we look at how many there are in Year 12, which is 336, and the 278 that are in Year 11. This gives us 614 students in total. So if we're looking just at our Year 11 grouping, that's the group that the staff want to survey. And there are 278 students out of the 614 in total. And the survey size that they want is only for 100 students. So we're just going to multiply this by 100, and we're going to be able to then work out how many students need to be in that sample. So 278 over 614, and then multiply it by 100. So we get 45.2, so 45.27. But again, if we're talking about people, we need to round it down. We can't have part of the person, so we have 45 students. Now, because this question is worded, you need to then give a sentence answer. So, therefore, 45 Year 11 students would be required. For the sample. It's really important to remember to do that. The next little bit that I said we would come back to from the previous page is bias. Now, bias occurs when a particular section of the population, so it's just a part of it, is favoured unfairly. And a biased sample is not a true representation of the whole population. So it might mean that you ask only people who own a particular type of car what their favourite car is, or if they listen to a particular radio station, what their favourite genre of music is. So that is where that bias can come into this. So the examples here, explain the bias in each of the following. A group of Year 11, same friendship group, was surveyed on their favourite type of music. So the bias in this would be that they are the same friendship group. And therefore they might all have the same style in music. So make sure again for these you write sentence answers. And for B here, a radio station's listeners were asked to vote for their favourite song in the weekly countdown. So our bias in this might be that only those who listen and feel strongly about that station and particular songs will vote.